Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome. Today is Wednesday. It's October 5th, 2022. My name's Jeremy, and this is my first cup. Good morning to Jenny and Stacy. Stacy says, "Good morning, whistlekick family. We're live and local from Northern Vermont." I could try to. Good morning, Nathan. I could try to put on like a news voice. No. I need to be a little more awake to pull that one out. And of course, all the rest of you, whether you're watching live later or listening, thanks for coming by. How are you? How was your Tuesday? If your Tuesday was anywhere close to as productive as my Tuesday, you feel very good about yourself. I crushed it. I absolutely crushed Tuesday. I just pounded through, ton of work, a lot of little stuff, sent out a ton of emails. There's more, but I feel caught up. Feel caught up on things. I was going to send out an email on the whistlekick list, but that requires some creative energy. Ran out of steam on that part of my brain, so that's going to happen first thing this morning. I don't know when it'll go out. It'll go out later today, but I'm going to make it first thing this morning. Good morning also to Mark. Stacy says, "Nice cup." Yeah, I like this mug. We did this design for a shirt, and I think it actually looks better as a mug. I think this one's still on the website. So, went to the gym, pet the dog, got some different paint samples. This wall's going to get painted. Not that any of you see what it looks like now, but I need an accent wall in here, or so people who know interior design have told me. So I had some colors up there that I didn't really like. They weren't quite right. So went to the store, grabbed some more color samples. I'm staring at them. Oh, I think I've got it picked out. Jenny says, "Not a very productive Tuesday for me, but I did get things done. Even slow progress is progress." It's so true. I think quite often we just our whole Western culture is, if I can't do everything, I'm going to do nothing. And it's just such a silly way to approach life. And the best example of that is anytime somebody is on a diet, they're trying to eat in a certain way for maybe a certain period of time. And they say, "Oh, I missed this today, so I might as well have 6 pints of ice cream for dinner." It doesn't work that way. Stacy says, "Accent walls are the bomb." I'm a simple guy. These are not things that generally fall in my world, but I've been trying to make this space here more of a enjoyable space, and so yeah, that's what we're doing. Coffee is warmer than normal. I'm not sure why. Couldn't tell you. I gotta say, I really appreciated our conversation yesterday. I liked our chat. It was one of the best conversations we've ever had on First Cup, and I'm thankful to all of you for engaging on it. I want to do more of that. I think ultimately that's where I want to take the show, is us having good conversation about a subject. It doesn't have to be a big subject. It doesn't have to be a controversial subject. It can just be something about martial arts. Hard. Well, Stacy said, "Oh, I feel called out on that diet comment." Not meaning to call you out. It's something that I see with a lot of people. I hear it at the gym. I hear it from friends. I hear it from so many people. Here's something that I've been using in my brain, not just with food, but with other things, that has really helped me. So I'll give you a little bit of context. I've mentioned before, I have a friend who runs a fitness podcast, and he does a great job, and it gets a fair amount of attention. So he has access to people and resources that are, of substance. And I think I may have mentioned this before, but a couple months ago, he did a 30-day project where he ate nothing but McDonald's. But instead of the way Super Size Me was done, the attempt was, how can he do this in such a way that it's not unhealthy, or at least as healthy as possible. And most of the options were pretty straightforward. Did away with the bread, ate primarily meat and cheese, just about it. Once in a while, I think he had some chicken nuggets, and I think once in a while he had chocolate milk. And that was it. And they did a ton of blood work beforehand and after. And all of his blood markers either stayed the same or got better. So the idea that it has to be unhealthy is not necessarily true. Now, that's all leading into something that I heard one of the people who was part of the project on the advising side say. There's a difference between a good F and a bad F. Most of us grew up going to school and being graded on a scale of 0 to 100. And that number correlating to a letter. At my school, anything under a 60 was an F. So you could get a 2 or a 58, and they're both Fs. One of them is a really bad F. The other's a good F. And so my big takeaway coming from the episode where they talked about this whole project was the notion that there's such thing as a good F. Going to McDonald's might not be the best choice, but you can still make the best of the possible choices while you're there. And that's something I've been trying to do in my own food choices. Okay, I know I'm going to buy ice cream when I'm at the store because I'm really craving ice cream. I don't have to get a pint of Ben & Jerry's with 1,600 calories and eat the whole thing. I can get something else that maybe has 2/3 of that. Maybe it still checks the box for me. Right? You could say the same thing about training. Just because you're not going to an hour-long class doesn't mean that you can't do something. 2 minutes of martial arts and 0 minutes of martial arts are still Fs, but one's a better version of that than the other. Something to think about. Oh. Then it says, happy getting over the hump day. Woo. Shabashi says, good morning. Was listening to a video about dog diets. I will say, I've seen dramatic changes in friends' dogs that went to raw meat, a raw meat-based diet. Dogs and cats aren't supposed to eat potatoes and corn. They don't in the wild. When my cat, when she was alive, the last few years of her life, the vet encouraged me to put her on a raw food diet, and it completely changed her in a very, very positive way. Good morning, Andy. Nikki says it well here. Mindset is everything. So true. Absolutely true. Jenny says balance. Yeah. Doesn't have to be all or nothing. In fact, all or nothing is a terribly unsustainable way to do anything. When I work with clients on anything, if we chart it, if the line moves constantly upwards, I get nervous. It makes me nervous that I'm tracking things wrong or I'm tracking the wrong thing. Because if there isn't some fluctuation, it suggests that you've built a model that is imprecise, that it works good in theory, but maybe not in practice. It's important to look at that. Or maybe you're taking the wrong size sample, right? So I work with a number of martial arts schools. If we were tracking student count, if I only checked the student count once a year, that's not frequent enough. But I also don't need to do it every day. I can if the system that I work with has simple reporting, because that would give us, right? Hopefully it moves up. But it shows that variability, which I think is really important. You could say the same thing about your weight on a scale if that's something you're tracking. Or, see, martial arts is tough because we don't have objective metrics, which is both good and bad. But for a lot of people, they struggle with that. There are objective things that can be done in the martial arts, but most schools don't do them. did not quite put enough coffee in my cream. So today, on top of, and we'll come back to this conversation because it seems like you guys are digging this. So good. I'm glad. Doing the books, client call, and then I have a massage. I have been trying. I'm very thankful. The massage therapist that I love working with, she's awesome. Does 2-hour massages, but she has very few appointments available. So this one's been scheduled for 6 weeks, maybe longer. And when it is done, I am done with the day. I will be done with the day. Really, I'll be done with work. I'm having a half day. I'm okay with that. And I'm going to keep saying that until I believe it. So Stacy's chiming in. I drew the correlation between a little bit of training and no training is still, or a little bit of training is better than no training. It doesn't have to be a full class. She says, indeed, on the martial arts comment, we'll be starting back to the land of training by doing one-to-one classes prior to returning to full classes, a single step. Yep. Remember, sometimes with our martial arts skills, because as we get better, we have so many things that we know, we learn, we're trying to learn, forms and whatever we're trying to hold on to. Sometimes, quote, progress is stemming the bleeding on losing a skill. And for people to, so some people might hear that statement and say, why would a skill ever degrade? If you've been training for decades and you know a bunch of different things, inevitably some skill is going to degrade. There are a number of things I'm not as good at as I once was. I could get better at them, but I'm focusing my time on other things. Most of my focus right now is on superfoot related things. My forms are not progressing. What else is not progressing? My flexibility is not progressing at the moment. But I work on those things just enough that if I need to pull them out of my pocket and work on them and bring them close to where I want to be, where I was at the peak, I can do that. Dennis, that reminds me, I earned enough points for a free ice cream on my next visit to Stu Leonard's. That's funny. No, and Stacy's not the only one here. She says, between weight gain, depression, and long haul vid, I talked myself into a corner. It's easy to do. It's easy to listen to the voices in the back of your head, that self-talk that sadly society is really good at reinforcing, and tell us we're not good enough, we shouldn't even bother. I see it all the time on social media. I have to say, I think I've told you all, I'm taking a personal break from Facebook. I will check Facebook a couple times a day, but only at my computer. The app is off my phone, and that has been so huge. I did not realize how often I got sucked into my phone because there was a notification. Now, I knew Facebook was holding back some notifications to make sure they could give them to me more frequently. Holy cow. For the first week, I would just pick up my phone and just look at it. Not for any reason. I was just so trained to do it, and I had to unlearn it. And now I'm trying to get better leaving my phone, not next to me. Instagram might be the next one to go because I'm starting to do a little bit of the same with Instagram. And it says, the journey begins with a single step. Every bit of progress can be boiled down to single steps. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Sometimes just taking a small step forward is all you can muster, and that's okay. What does a lifetime of anything look like if you move slowly but constantly? Looks pretty good. I don't know if you ever had teachers that did this, but I had some in school that would say, okay, if you put $5 a week into a money market account, this is back when money market accounts actually made money, but still lower interest. You put $5 a week into here for the rest of your life. What do you have at 70? It's a lot of money, right? Like it's easy to see that progress compound. Martial arts, we can't quite measure it in the same way, but it still compounds. It still happens. There's a book that there's training.whistlekick.com, which if any of you have purchased any of our training programs, you know that we keep the videos and everything up on that page. But that's also the home of a concept that we rolled out years ago called 2-minute martial arts. And ultimately, and Jenny, I don't know where this fits in on the roadmap, but there's a book of 365 martial arts drills that you can do in 2 minutes that will come out at some point. Similar to the concept of 12 months to health, this idea that if you do something small every day, what's 2 minutes times 365? How many more hours of training is that across a year? It's a tremendous amount of training. But the difference is everybody can find 2 minutes. And all these drills are things you can do at home. Stacy says, hey, I hear there's an awesome program for flexibility out there. We just rolled out a new version, updated videos. It's up to version 1.3. Yes, I very nerdily, is that a word? Track our training programs as we improve them. And if you buy, Flex is free, so irrelevant, but with the others, as they improve, you still get access to them. We don't make you buy them again. You get lifetime access. Brian is late, but here. Good morning. Dennis has a quote up from Antonio Pereira. I don't know that name. And it is, if I miss one day of practice, I can feel a difference in my technique. If I miss 2 days, my students will notice. If I miss 1 week, even the public can tell. I don't know if that is necessarily true. I don't think martial arts skills degrade quite that quickly, but the concept is sound. Small amounts of degradation also build up. Jenny's turned off notifications on Facebook on her phone because she was opening the app simply to make the red circle disappear. You got it, Jenny. Dennis says, I always have 100 plus Facebook notifications. I more or less checked out of that mess a long time ago, but I do scroll for cat and dog pictures once in a while. That is what TikTok has become for me, is animal stuff. Instagram is a lot of animal stuff. But what I like about TikTok is I can very clearly see how my behavior on that app trains the algorithm. If I'm finding I'm getting too little animal stuff, I will quickly scroll through other stuff until I'm getting animal stuff. And then I'll spend more time on that video and I'll open that account and I'll watch other videos. And you can really quickly train it towards what you want. Instagram, half of what I follow, it's like 1/3 people I know, 1/3 people from martial arts stuff, and then 1/3 dog accounts. We rate dogs and stuff like that. Dennis with the lesson for us. Xian Pereira was the founder of Miyamaru Jiu-Jitsu, the headmaster of my first dojo, and a close friend of Mike D. Sr. And for those of you who don't know Mike D., Michael de Pasquale. Senior has passed away. Junior has trained quite a few people that I know. Great guy. He's been on the show once. We have not done an interview episode. We did a conversations episode, which was kind of close to an interview episode for him, but not really. Now, Frank did send over some stuff for us. And as always, thank you to Frank and thank you to Josh for our theme song. Today is American mixed martial artist Rich Franklin's birthday. So if you don't know who Rich Franklin is, he's I don't want to say early, but compared to where we are now, an earlier UFC guy, started in karate, I would say he's an example of a traditional martial artist turning MMA. And if you look through his career, which I knew his name, but I wanted to make sure I was remembering the right person. His name is up alongside a bunch of names that you likely know: Anderson Silva, Ken Shamrock, Randy Couture, right? Like these are fights that he had, or I think the Couture fight got pulled, but he was there for Ultimate Fighter. I'm not a huge fan of the UFC, but there's no denying the impact that the UFC has had. And if I'm remembering his timeline correctly off my very brief skim before we jumped in, he was a high school teacher before he started doing MMA, which I think is kind of cool. Where do we go? I'm over here. Okay. So his birthday, Rich Franklin was born on October 5th, 1964 in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is why Frank has us talking about him. Frank is from Cincinnati, if you didn't know. He's an actor known for Cyborg Soldier in 2008 and The Genesis Code in 2010 and Formless. Used to be a high school math teacher in Cincinnati for 4 years. He still volunteers at the school a few times a month, and says here he's a brown belt under Jorge Gurgel, but in my brief research before the show, he's earned his black belt. So that's fun. People think I'm anti-MMA. I'm not. I'm anti-jerk. And the UFC fosters personalities because it's TV. You know, they've taken a playbook from professional wrestling. And it can be fun, but I have a hard time separating. I have a really hard time separating martial arts and my love of martial arts from these character portrayals. I love watching amateur MMA. I love being at amateur MMA. Watching people who are making no money, who know they are so statistically unlikely to move up and go pro, just want to test their skills with someone else who wants to test their skills. The idea that they beat the tar out of each other and then afterwards they hug and they're thankful for that. I have to say, if we look at it in the context of martial arts training, the idea of that someone would be willing to go 100% with you is such an honor, that they're willing to put their body on the line in an environment that mutually makes them mutually better, right? Both sides learn from the experience. That's amazing to me. That's Budo. Because you know you're going to take shots. You know you're going to get hit. It's not going to feel good. I don't want to do it, but I still respect the heck out of it. We got some Frank is the man, and yeah, for Frank. Everybody loves Frank. I will say when I've spoken with Frank and I talk on the phone often, somewhere between often and occasionally, whatever that word is, at least once a month. He seems to love his city, and I think that that's something that's really cool. Not everybody does. I love Montpelier, even though legally I live in Moortown. I consider myself someone who lives in the woods of Montpelier. I love Montpelier. It's our capital. It's the smallest capital in the U.S., the only one without a McDonald's. My history in Vermont. I've been here half my life. I've been in Vermont half my life. The history of me in Vermont is very tightly woven into Montpelier, even when I didn't live in Montpelier. It's an interesting, it bats above it, it punches above its weight. That's the term I was looking for. 8,000 people, but tons of great restaurants, and it's a fun spot. Dennis says this well. I'm a big fan of respectful competition. As you said, two fighters pushing each other to the limit and then hugging it out to thank each other for the experience. Mutual respect. The UFC, not so much. This is something that the way Dennis is putting this, I think this is what attracts most people to the Superfoot organization. Now, obviously, people draw the lines differently. Dennis and I have sparred. I know he's comfortable going harder than I am, but we can still push each other and trust that there's no intent to hurt, right? Maybe there's an intent to land a technique. Maybe there's an attempt to try something. But if the goal is to harm someone, that's different than to land a technique, right? I could spar someone at 100%, and I could still do so without wanting to hurt them. Yes, I'm trying to cause some damage in that moment, because if that's what the rule set dictates, I have to do that. But I don't need to want to break their nose. I don't need to want to cause damage that's going to require surgery or a long time recovering. I want to get in. I want to end the fight. And for a lot of us, that's how we approach self-defense. Someone attacks us. I don't want to hurt them. I just want it to be over. And I want it to be over with as little injury to myself as possible. That's how I look at it. So, my encouragement for you today is to take a look at what you're doing. Are there good Fs and bad Fs that you are making choices about? It all adds up. It's all little steps that combine to get you where you're going. It's never one training session or one meal that gets you where you want to go or derails you. You can always pick it back up. You can always start over. And starting over is always better than letting it get away from you. So take a look for those opportunities. Where can you make a small upgrade to your choice? If you're reading 12 Months to Health, I don't think I have a copy on the shelf here. If you're reading 12 Months to Health, that's the whole premise of the book. Every single thing in there you could look at and say, there is such a better way to do this. Yeah, but it takes so much more work. Not that we use the term in there, but 12 Months to Health is rooted in a whole bunch of good Fs. Make better choices. Slightly better choices still add up. I'll read these two comments and we'll call it a day. Dennis, his first time I met Dan Severn, my dad and I were chatting with him for a bit, and I said to him, "Damn, you're like the nicest guy in the world." He replied, "I'm a competitor. When we face each other, we shake hands. The bell rings, and I'm going to give you my all. Then the bell rings again. We shake hands and go out and grab a beer together. The fight is over." That's been my experience with rugby. Like recreational rugby teams seem to do that really well. They'll pound the tar out of each other on the pitch, but afterwards, they go drink. And Shibashi-san says, "Hope everyone here has an awesome day. It's raining and dreary here in central Connecticut." Well, I hope it dries out a little bit. It's supposed to warm up here today. Tomorrow's supposed to be warm as well. Thanks, Dennis. And thank you to all of you. Remember, First Cup is the only martial arts morning show live, 6:30 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And if you want to support us, Patreon, there's great stuff on the Patreon. Seriously. If you have not checked it out, I cannot imagine that if you love martial arts and you love what we do, that you would ever plunk down $5 a month and look at it and go, "I regret this." If you do, I'll refund your money. How's that? You can also use the code First cup won 5 to save 15% on anything at whistlekick.com. And if you want the whole list, it's the family page, whistlekick.com/family. All the ways you can help us in our mission to connect, educate, and entertain traditional martial artists worldwide. I thank you all for being here. I hopefully will see you back here tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. Peace.